We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our guest is Clint Kelly, malpractice attorney here in Middle Tennessee. Does a great job. And taking your call, 737-7587. If you have a question about a malpractice case, a situation you're not sure about, or just something you wonder about the law, this man will answer. Let's go to Pat this morning. Pat, good morning. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
I have two.
Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
I have two questions I would like to ask. Well, after you have your knee replacement, is it true that, I mean, when are they supposed to not put cortisone shots in your knee?
Cortisone shots?
Uh-huh. Pain medicine.
Okay, why are you asking?
Because it was happening to me, and they have messed up my knee.
Pat, I don't have enough information on that. That's a question I would ask a orthopedic surgery expert. I have an orthopedic surgery expert that reviews my cases and testifies in the cases that I file, and that's a question I would have to ask an expert because I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, another question.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
What make you, after they do the knee surgery, what is it that make you have dead tissues left in your knee?
Dead tissue. Again, I know you're not a doctor, but I don't know, dead tissue. Now,
yeah.
Maybe you can talk more in general, and if you have specifics, but I'm just wondering, very incredibly common surgery now, knee replacement surgery. Are there cases sometimes coming out of those types of surgeries?
Rarely.
Okay.
Rarely. And the reason why with knee replacements is two things. First of all, those can be fixed in general. But secondly, a knee replacement has only so much it can do. It improves people's condition, but people think, well, when I get a new knee, I'm going to be as good as I was before, and that's not the case. She's talking about necrotic tissue. You can have that. That can be caused by infection. That can be caused by lack of blood supply. But again, when you have a knee replacement, there are going to be a number of different things that can go with that will compromise your ability to use your knee. But it is generally better than it was before you had knee replacement. And if it gets bad enough, if they have to, they can put another knee replacement in. I haven't had success with those cases because orthopedic surgeons tell me time and time again that whatever the problem is generally can be fixed, or it's one of those it happens kind of thing, you know, and it's not the result of negligence. Yeah, the standard of care is there, they do it, and you have just a bad result. Correct. Which we always need to touch on, by the way. You don't have a case just because you go to the doctor and maybe they weren't able to help you because your situation was so severe, right? It's called a bad outcome. Okay. That's a buzzword that doctors use for a situation where someone does not heal like they wanted to, but the doctor still did the best job they could. Fact of the matter is sometimes the body simply doesn't respond as well as other people do to the procedure, even when the doctor does a good job, and that's what's known as a bad outcome. That is not the basis of a lawsuit. So the basis of the lawsuit is whether or not a doctor did not follow what I've learned from you, standard of care. Meaning there's a standard for how it is, and if they don't do like those 4 things before they do a surgery, they didn't do standard of care. Think of it this way, that's when you have a bad job that causes a bad outcome. That's different. That is a lawsuit. Can be a lawsuit if the bad outcome is bad enough, but there needs to be a bad job that causes the bad outcome. I'm just curious, of late, is there any type of case that you've been seeing either personally or nationally that's been cropping up maybe in regards to some type of new treatment or medicine or surgery? Anything that's new? Because I know medicine keeps changing and sometimes things don't always go right. Well, things are changing in the sense that we're learning there are different permutations for how healthcare delivery can be the basis of lawsuits that don't have to do with provision of care, like this situation in California you were talking about where they're videoing women giving childbirth, and in other situations because the hospital is running a camera to detect medication theft. Yeah, maybe nurses or someone stealing medicine, so they set up cameras, motion sensor cameras. Now they weren't letting the patients know this,
But when you walk into a hospital, do you give up your HIPAA rights as far as what happens with, obviously, your treatment? I mean, how else could you do it if the doctor's not
Nick,
involved?
This is where it gets thorny, because the short answer to your question is yes, you give it up inside the hospital. Once you come in, you're authorizing everyone in the hospital to basically know everything about you that there is. The counter argument to that is yes, but you're not giving up your right to have privacy or secure in your likeness, your pictures or videos. Like, give you an example, when they do an operation, a lot of times they'll take pictures of the body part before and after the surgery, like if it's plastic surgery or knee replacement, and they keep those pictures in the file. Sometimes because they send them for studies, sometimes as a way to make sure they've recorded or documented what they saw and what the result was. A bad infection they can photograph. In this case, it's a different purpose. It's being used to try to find a thief. So the question becomes, does the hospital have, as part of its security, the right to videotape what goes on its premises to protect or guard against medication theft at the expense of people being videotaped? And I told you that my sense of it is, as long as those videos don't get outside the hospital, there's no harm, because it's a security measure. But I think the cure to this, if you will, is going to be they're going to change consent forms so that when people come into the hospital, you'll have a provision that you initial your name to, saying that we have the right to video the premises for security measures. And virtually everyone is going to sign off on that, so long as those videos or pictures are maintained on the premises.
Makes sense. But gosh forbid, if then, and the main concern, I guess, for these women would be, all right, I understand that, but if that video gets out, they've got me in childbirth or me changing naked, in which case, if it did get out, the hospital would be held liable for allowing those videos to somehow get out. But that's basically it then. They'd have to accept, because I wonder, I mean, let's just say we don't have this at Channel 5, but let's say we wanted security cameras in the bathrooms here.
Yeah, and I say, what would be the justification for that? I mean, you're not going to detect. I'm
trying to think, or anywhere if you suspected some kind of activity was going on in a school setting or at some kind of business. I don't know what the.
I mean, they could put a camera when you come in and put a camera in your cubicle or wherever you work to if they think that someone is stealing supplies. I can't think of any legitimate basis for videotaping people in their bathroom.
In the bathroom, I think you're right. But we do have security cameras in the parking lot and things like that. Most places do.
To me, this is a legitimate policing effort on the part of the hospital to protect against medication theft or deter medication theft. And so long as those videotapes don't get outside the hospital, I don't see a civil wrong here.
Okay. I just want you to know, at this moment, you are on camera. Right.
Yes, I am.
Let's go to Bob. Bob, good morning. Hi, Bob.
Oh, hello. I had a aneurysm. Lower vascular, and signed have a stent put in, and they went in but didn't put a stent put in. So,
Bob, I didn't understand. Where did you have the aneurysm?
And the lower into the heart.
In your heart. Okay.
Well, no, right in front. And well, they said it was an aneurysm, and they were going to put a stent in the lower through the stomach. I mean, from the leg to the heart.
Yeah.
And they didn't. And I've got a big scar, and I've been suffering for a month. You know, and the other question would be about, you know, they cut so back on the pain medicines. You know, they used to codeine, Tylenol codeine, and I didn't even get that, so I'm suffering a little bit there. And I'm just wondering what to do. I went back to my regular doctor to have her send in papers to find out what she's going to find out by the 17th, and ask her. And I'm going to another surgeon, and I'm just wondering what to do. I mean,
all right. Well, Bob, you've done the right thing, which is you're going to another surgeon. That's what you need to do. I can't account for why the stent wasn't put in. I assume that you and your doctor would have that conversation. If you haven't, you certainly should. In terms of the pain medication, you and I have talked about that, Nick. There's pros and cons to that. The pro is that they're trying to keep addiction to a minimum, but at the same time, there's some people in pain that need the pain medication. There's an equilibrium there that has to be met in every case. I don't see a malpractice case from what you're telling me. I think the proper solution is what you're doing is, in a situation like that, you go to a different surgeon.
Let's take a break. When we come back, more phone calls, 737-7587, questions, comments. We'll get the latest on some of the cases that Clint's been, well, handling or what we see happening nationally, and there's always something new coming up. We'll be back with more right after this. Stay with us.